Hi, guys. Welcome to Drama in Session, the podcast that brings you real live drama straight to you. I'm Carina, a family law attorney here in LA County, and I help people navigate through courtroom chaos.
And I'm Heidi, legal assistant and part-time drama decoder. We are very interested on today's topic. We know that this is something that is being talked about a lot lately, and that would be the Sean P. Diddy case that's going on, all the accusations. And we just are tying that with, relationships and just how even celebrities go through issues like this and how we all, there's no exception, whether you're a regular folk, celebrity,
Yeah,
we all go through.
we all have those relationships or know people that have the relationships where it turns physical, or there's not even just physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse. So, in tying the Combs case and with what happens in courtroom life, right? I guess the P Diddy case is great for us to talk about because it deals with courtroom drama, and we have a lot of courtroom drama. We have him making facial expressions, pointing at people, saying remarks, trying to get the jury's attention. We also have allegations of domestic violence, allegations of sexual abuse. The list goes on and on. We have allegations from women and from men
Right.
that had been in relationships with P. Diddy. And now these things are coming to light that he was just this horrible person. The one thing that stands out to me as a family law attorney is that in this case, what is different than many, many other domestic violence cases is that we have an actual video of the domestic violence.
Yes.
We have this horrible 10, almost 10-minute long video of him terrorizing this poor woman that he was in a relationship with. But it begs the question, what would we all be thinking right now if nobody saw this video?
Yeah.
We have text messages being read in the courtroom that say, I had the best weekend ever with you. Thank you for everything. I love you so much. But then the testimony that day says that they were forced to be with entertainers, multiple entertainers. They were drugged. They were forced to stay awake for 30, 40 hours. They were forced to engage into acts that they were not comfortable with. But then you have these text messages. And this is what happens in court. This is literally showing the world how messy relationships can get.
And we could see how it gets tricky because we were listening that they lasted for up to 30 hours, maybe more, right? But
Yes.
then at the end of the day, he was financially supporting these victims.
Yes.
So in their heads, it was like, but then they also said that aside from those 30 hours, they also had their intimate moments where he told them they loved them, they felt loved. And that was just a few, I guess, hours in the span of the months or years or however long they were in this relationship, right? That they tried to override the
What was actually happening.
exactly.
And that happens a lot in domestic violence cases. We have women that will endure, and men too, exactly what's going on here,
Right.
years and years of abuse. And the main question is, why did you stay? Why did you stay so long? And what they're bringing to light, or what this case is really bringing to light, is the control that he had over their lives, financially, mentally, all of that. He would drug them. So it was like physical control. The one thing that also stands out to me is the fact that they're painting a picture of him being this romantic person that they had an actual relationship with, and then gradually it turned into these, exotic freak offs, or whatever is
Mhm.
they're calling it, and this physical abuse. He didn't start physically, mentally, emotionally abusing them on day one.
Oh, no.
No. So when you ask somebody, well, how did you stay so long? Well, because people hold on to the person that they met in the beginning. And that's what's happening here. And it's interesting to see how it's all unfolding. And in comparison to the Johnny Depp trial, where we didn't really have a video where they're actually physically assaulting someone, where it's like, well, it's a he said, she said.
I think they have voice recordings, but we don't know the context, right?
No.
Whereas when you have the video,
A very, very detailed video. And I think when we were watching it, one thing you pointed out was, how long did this elevator take to
oh, I know, because if you go back and watch, if you haven't watched it, you can see that she pulls up to that little lobby where the elevator is. She's digging in her bag. She had clicked the button to open the elevator, and then she's still rambling through her bag. And then he comes out, and I'm like, okay, who controls these elevators? Because she was there for at least a minute, and this elevator just did not open.
No, and imagine how she was feeling. She was probably feeling that it was like the longest, like 30 minutes of trying to be
Quiet and
Yes,
just
quiet.
alone, the getting out of the room and like you got so far to at that point I probably would have took the stairs
Or something, right? Well, and I know that there was other testimony that other individuals were stating that they ran out of hotel rooms.
oh yeah,
One woman was saying that she ran, I think,
big block
yeah,
and hid behind a wall for 2 hours.
yeah. So obviously there is fear there. But what's interesting and what's coming out a lot is they're trying to tie in the love that they had. And I think that that's what really brings in the fear that victims have in domestic violence cases, because they're not, how are they going to believe me
Mm.
when I don't really have anything? And we did have a great relationship. We have kids, we were married, we bought homes, we took family pictures, but I was abused or I was forced to have sexual encounters, but then I would have these extravagant vacations in Turks and Caicos, or he was paying for my lifestyle, my apartment. He helped fund my business, but he's abusive,
Yeah.
forces me to take drugs, and I know that this feels so far out of reach for a lot of people because they think, "Oh, it's another celebrity," but I can tell everyone here that this happens every day in court, and it's hard for people to come forward as is because they're not gonna be believed, and a lot of it now is looking at these victims like, "Why did it take you so long to come forward?" And it's true. I mean, they probably thought that they were not going to be believed. And until this video came out that he tried to hide and pay somebody off on, then it felt more like, okay, well, there's actual evidence to back us up. But then you have the second witness that's giving details that are similar to the first witness, but now it's, well, are you just saying this because the first witness said it, or is it because this is your life too? And she's like, oh no, this literally, the life was detailing my life, the experience. And a lot of people live in that fear to come forward because how do you go against a he said she said, especially against a celebrity?
Exactly. And I believe I was also watching, some of the footage of these trials, and they were saying that the jury is now having to determine what was, I guess, forced or not consensual.
Yes.
Because you have these text messages where it was like, oh, that was an amazing time. So out of everything that he's being accused of, I mean, you were in a relationship, was it consent? And then now they're picking it apart, right? Okay, well, what wasn't?
Yeah, because
Consensual.
a lot of the questions are, well, wasn't this freak off your
Mhm.
idea?
I think that Jane Doe had mentioned that is it Jane Doe or just Jane?
I
Somebody that she had even set up the balloons and the candles for one of these freak offs, and so the jury is listening to, okay, well, you set up the room and decorated it, but now you're saying you weren't. Right.
and
So I can see and how it gets tricky for
and
the
I think
jury.
a lot of it is them realizing that there is a difference between consenting because you have a clear state of mind and you understand what's happening or being manipulated to think that you're consenting to be under the influence of drugs. And that's where it really does get tricky. But I think that the jury needs to understand that these are not normal situations. This was years of manipulation by a celebrity that's paying for everything, that has eyes on them, that has been able to get away with essentially the craziest stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, you're talking arson, human trafficking, all these allegations, right? So he has had years of being able to escape charges, not be questioned by the police,
Mm.
just fly, under the radar. So of course these people aren't going to come forward sooner. And that's what happens in our cases,
Mm.
especially when it comes to men being abused. They spend years being physically abused, but then in their mind, "Who's gonna believe me?"
Especially because I'm the man, how am I gonna say
And I'm 6'2" and she
right.
5'5" or something, right? But it happens. There's manipulation, there's control, and a lot of people don't realize that they are in a domestic violence relationship if they are not getting physically abused because people don't associate that with domestic violence.
Mhm.
They don't think, "Well, he pays all of my stuff. I'm not allowed to leave, but I mean, he doesn't hit me or she doesn't hit me. So am I really getting abused?" And that's what is happening in these trials. They're pretty much trying to tear it apart to figure out, was this consensual, was it not? But I mean, do you ever really consent to not being able to leave a hotel room for hours and hours and have to engage with so many men? I know that at some point, even if you engage in sexual like a relationship with someone at any point in time, if you say no, at that point it becomes rape, right? So I think that that's why they're trying to piece it together and trying to figure out when was it consensual, when it wasn't. But whether or not some parts were consensual, it doesn't deviate from the fact that all of this was also happening.
Exactly. So, we just hope that justice is served and that this trial has a good outcome for these victims.
Yes, and you really see how the trial's taking a toll on Diddy. He
Mhm.
looks like a different
He
person.
looks so old.
He does, and I think I read somewhere that he was, getting upset with the media or the person that's supposed to sketch him because she was painting him or sketching him in a way that he didn't think he looked good, and I'm like, "Really? You still have that kind of power that you're able to get messages to the sketch artist to be like, 'Can you get my left side and not my right side?'" Like,
Can you delete the double chin?
and I know that so many people are reporting on these, and a lot of them are risking so much because if there is this enterprise that's was out to commit these crimes behind Diddy, it's not just Diddy, right? It is an enterprise. It is his business to do this. So it doesn't take just one person.
No, of course.
So now there's people on TikTok that are going on the comment sections of people that are reporting this kind of stuff. And they're pretty much like, "Hey, like if you go missing, I'm going to make sure I save this video so I can give it to someone." Because a lot of it is wild and you really never know what people are capable at. And I think that that's what we're seeing because we grew up listening to Diddy. We grew up watching his videos and seeing the relationships that he had, like public relationships, and then seeing that person in a video beating someone the way that he was. I can't wrap my head around it, so I know that the rest of the world is having a difficult time.
Yeah, and I can't imagine his kids if they didn't know, right? And
But most of the time, I think that when you live with someone, you do know their personality and their, temperament. So I think to an extent they had to have known that he had this physical side to him or this abusive side to him because it doesn't just grow overnight. It didn't just happen.
or who knows what has happened to maybe not, sexually, but again, the physical in many different ways.
Yes, physical abuse towards the kids, in the
Mhm.
household, in the family. I mean, even just working for him. I know that a lot of these
Oh, yeah.
workers are testifying, but what are they risking and what really happened and what do a lot of people not talk about this? I mean, I know that he's probably had thousands of people that have worked for him over the years, and it's going to be interesting to see if anybody does come up to say that they were asked to engage in these freak offs or what was happening.
Mhm.
And it's just wild to think that all this stuff was happening, and now everyone is talking about it. Now everyone's bringing this in
And
light.
he, like, put out an apology video, and he was basically saying that the people that are coming out are doing it for the money, but
Well, I think his apology video was saying that he apologized for his behavior in the hotel in the video that we saw.
oh, right.
But there's a difference between apologizing for what you did and being remorseful and really taking a look at yourself as a human being and saying, like, "I don't wanna be this person." And then there's a difference between that and apologizing because you got caught.
Oh, right.
And
If
so
the video again, if the video wouldn't have come out, and I was just looking up, like, when did this so it looks like the lawsuit for Cassie Ventura is her name, his girlfriend, this was in November 2023.
So, yeah, so all of this is
And a
it
while.
well, the video came out a while ago, but now I think because of the allegations, the prosecution was able to pick up a case, a federal case against him and make a case. So they probably have been building behind the scenes for years, but because he's such a big name celebrity, it's very difficult for them to really pin stuff on him because people protect him. And even now, right, you have these commentators that are just talking about P. Diddy and how great of a man he is and
I think there was
perfect.
someone in the courthouse. I saw a TikTok, someone was in the courthouse and they're like, "Diddy, we love you. Like, everyone's talking bad about you, but we're like, how?"
And I don't understand, but we believe you or we're okay with how with the person that you are because obviously that's him. I mean, he admits it's him in the video.
Mhm.
But I just don't know how these people are gonna be willing to back him up in that sense. I mean, it's okay for you to still want to, idolize this celebrity or want to think that they are still one of your favorite celebrities or whatnot, but at the same time, are you going to be okay with domestic violence? And I think one of his witnesses even said, like, I still loved him, even though he was abusing me. I still loved him. That's why I sent these text messages. And we see that all the time. People
Mhm.
think, like, well, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you just go? Well, because
Why did you call the police?
yes, because people love that individual. They have had years of a relationship or even months.
Or they're the father of my children, the mother of
Exactly.
my children.
There's so much. And in this case, I think it was financially pulling them towards Diddy and the finances became the control, then the manipulation, and then okay, I had to engage in these acts because that was what made him happy. And I wanted to make him happy because I loved him. And that's where it gets tricky. And I think that that's literally it's indirectly covering family law. And I think it's funny that everybody is looking at it like the domestic violence, but it's not really about the domestic violence. It's about the human trafficking, the racketeering, all of that stuff. And I think that it's they're bringing in all of the items like the arson and the DV, everything to not only show his character because they're not allowed to bring in character evidence into these type of trials, but it's more to show that his enterprise were committing crimes basically to facilitate whatever it is that he was trying to facilitate, the human trafficking, the continued years of abuse or whatever it is that was happening in that relationship or in that, enterprise that they had. But it's interesting to see all of the allegations and everything that he's done behind closed doors that people just didn't report, or they did and nobody did anything.
I remember, knowing first of Diddy because I love Danny Kane,
Who
the group. It was
Oh,
like a group.
yes, yeah. I remember being, like, obsessed with the song that he made with Mace. I don't know if you know who he was, but he made, like, this song with Mace, and it was, like, a rap song. That's when I first remember him. And then when he was in a relationship with J.Lo, I was like, "Oh my god,
Diane.
J.Lo." I'm like, is J.Lo gonna come in and testify anytime soon, or what's happening with that? Because did any of this happen to her, or do we all think that J.Lo was, like, the kind of person to be like, "Oh, no, if you want to engage in a freak off, that's on you. I'm gonna go here. I'm not gonna engage in this freak off."
Latina can never.
Right? She was like, "Oh, no, I'm jealous.
I'll kill him.
I'll kill him. There's no way I'm letting you be touched by another woman or man."
Dang.
But that's really the Latina, mentality most of the time.
I mean, You do have cases though, so it doesn't exclude anyone.
No, it does not.
And again, we talk a lot about domestic violence with all the physical, right? But there's always the, well, he took my car keys, or lately we've been seeing a lot, I feel, about the numerous of text or phone calls done throughout a day. That too could be, depending.
It's stressful. Imagine your phone ringing nonstop all day that you can't even pick it up to make a call. I mean, that literally would drive me crazy.
We have
The
clients
nonstop.
that tell us I can't even look at what time it is
Yeah.
because it's just on the person's,
Yeah.
know,
How am I supposed to work when my phone is ringing? I have kids. I don't know what's happening with them at school.
calling their job.
Yes. And I think that that's more of what people think of when they think of domestic violence, harassment, right? Like the stalking, all of that. But there's so much that domestic violence entails. It's just putting the fear in someone, literally telling someone, I want to harm you. And if that person really believes that you want to harm them, then that person has a claim of domestic violence. The other issue that comes up is, will a restraining order really protect me?
Right. If they break that order, right, they can get arrested or charged, but they can still.
Break the order.
Exactly.
And I mean, are the cops gonna come out to every domestic violence violation call? I don't know. I mean, it's good to have the order of protection, but I've literally seen someone with an order of protection and the other individual is counting down until the restraining order disappears. So they're literally saying 7 more months and you and I are gonna have fun. 6 more months and you're gonna really see my true colors.
That's so scary.
And they take these text messages to the cops and they're like, okay, well, we'll put them in the file. She's just like, okay, nobody sees this. But the thing is that the cops look at it, well, they haven't really done it. They're just kind of threatening you. Well, yeah, because they're counting down. And then the other instance is we've had people where the individual will get arrested, right, for violating the restraining order. But then within 3 days, they're out.
Right.
They're out at parties, drinking. We're over there looking at their stories like, oh my God, how are they out right
Bring their
now?
clients just like, "They got arrested, this happened, oh my gosh, okay," and then, "Oh my gosh, they're out, what do I do?"
Yes. And the other thing that I think is interesting is that when people have multiple domestic violence partners. So going back to Diddy, right? Cassie wasn't the only one that's a victim of domestic violence. We have men and women that are coming forward. And in cases that we have women where they will protect their significant other, even though they're falling into this pattern of domestic abuse. And even though there's evidence that he has had partners in the past that have alleged domestic violence. And we see that all the time. But in the moment, you're just so blinded by it. And what do? They go to the cops. And then at that point, I was a victim of domestic violence. And I know that he was charged. I know he went to jail for this. I know he even has an attempted murder charge for the time he tried to kill someone else. And then the cops are like, okay, we'll bring him in. Do they bring him in? I don't know. Do they question him? I don't know. Do they book him? Sometimes. Does he spend longer than 3 days in jail? Maybe. It's so hard to really tell someone this piece of paper is going to protect you. But at the end of the day, if you don't report it and you don't take videos and you don't show or tell somebody that this domestic violence is going on, nobody's going to believe you. So you need to document it. You need to bring forward this. You need to have video recordings in a hotel to be able to show the court or be able to show the public that this happened.
And thank goodness that happened in a public setting where the camera was there.
But then imagine what goes on when the camera wasn't there.
Like in the room.
Yes,
Exactly.
because at any point in time, somebody could have walked out of their hotel room, which I think they did. I think people walked out of the hotel hallway and kind of saw, I guess, the end of it. But imagine what happens behind closed doors if he was willing to do that in a public area.
Exactly.
And that's usually what happens. People will get physical. You see it all the time, right? Like people are mean to their kids or something. And then parents say like, oh, I wonder how it is at home, like when nobody's watching. Well, yeah, because that's exactly how it is. Most of the time, I mean, we don't know. We really don't know. Maybe that is the extent of how angry somebody's going to get. But a lot of the time, nobody really knows what happens behind closed doors. And that's what makes family law is so difficult is that you have two individuals that have had a long-standing relationship that look perfect in the public, that are there taking pictures in dresses and gowns and on red carpet events, and then behind closed doors, they're, showing themselves to their friends black and blue or unable to move for days because of the freak offs. I think one of the victims said that she was recovering for 3 days because of these freak offs, where I mean, at that point, you didn't tell anyone that this was happening. I don't think that even if she did, I don't think it was detailed the way that she's telling people now, because as a friend, wouldn't you have been like, "Okay."
Yeah, but I mean, if again, if they're still protecting this person, even if they ask you what happened, you're gonna make up something to still protect that person.
Yes.
Like, oh, I just had a stomach bug, or
Yes.
and you know that if you tell them that they're obviously gonna find this insane.
Of course. And if
And
there's that little piece of clarity in the mind of victims that is still there, but then they're able to just push it away. And it happens with children as well. You see that they still love their parent. They protect them.
Mm.
They still want to get the love from the parent, even though the parent abuses them or physically, mentally, emotionally abuses them, all of that. And it's hard to show that in court because how do we have the proof? So luckily in the Diddy case, there is this hardcore evidence, but will that be enough to convict him? I don't know, because at the same time, we have victims that continue to come back, continue to understand that there was abuse. And I think there was one victim that was saying that they hadn't seen each other for months, like 4 months. But then he called her and then there she was right back to where she started. Well, it's like, well, you were able to be self-supporting for 4 months. You were able to walk away and be fine for 4 months, to have the clarity to be able to say like that was wrong, but then you fall back into it. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer there because we don't know. We were not that person. But I can see where the jury is looking at it strange because they don't see that every day in a courtroom like we do. We don't understand that that's normal. That's what victims do.
yeah. So, in building your case, again, just reminding you, you do need to just, if you find yourself or you know someone, you should let them know. Write down specific dates of when these abuse incidents are happening.
Dates are so
Yeah.
important.
You can always go back to, oh, I remember I have this picture on my phone because the next day I went to, I don't know, this new restaurant for the first time. So things like that help you remember. Police reports, if you're able to go to the police, file a report. I don't know how it works if they necessarily you really choose to press charges or not, but at least
Well, in California, the DA's office is able to press charges without the victim. Because before we had so many victims recounting their statements, being like, bring him home, bring her home. Like, I didn't mean to call the cops. So the DA's office made it a point to be like, okay, even if we don't have a victim, we're still gonna arrest them because obviously this lady or this guy was black and blue. There was a beer bottle in their hair when we got there still. There's evidence.
I don't know if I told you, but we got a call at the office, and it was a guy who was like, "Oh, I'm looking for a consultation." And I was like, "Wait, like, what kind of case do you have?" And he said that there was an altercation with his wife, and he had called the police. And I guess because the children were present or the children disclosed to the school, there was like a DCFS case. And so now she was going to have a court hearing and for the criminal charges. But then he was so I was under the impression like, oh, okay, like you have a restraining or you're seeking a restraining order. Or how can we help you? Right. And he's like, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm not looking to get a restraining order for myself. I'm looking for you guys to represent my wife because I take back everything that happened. It was just a misunderstanding. And I can explain what the misunderstanding was." And I was shocked because I was like, "Wait, you just told me that all this happens, but now you're like, oh wait, never mind. Can you help her?"
Take backseat.
Yes, like there are no take backsies. And then now you have the DCFS. What are your kids? Are you telling your kids like, oh, tell them that they didn't have like what?
Probably. that's probably what happens because you have this family dynamic where you're always supposed to protect the family, right? You're supposed to be there for the family. You're not supposed to let your family down. And that gets difficult. So now you have kids that grow up thinking they're supposed to lie. They're supposed to protect their family at any cost, is even if it's their parent. And they have to be forced to endure these situations and live in these situations. And it's just so sad. Is. And the problem with that case or with that individual in his particular case is that what happens the next time that a fight happens? What happens when now he recants his statement or say he never called the cops and say the argument got really bad and she was physical? Well, now he's pushing her off of him in the next fight and she decides to call the cops and they arrest him. But his position is, well, I have years of abuse. Where's the evidence? Where's the video?
You see that all the time.
Where's the timeline? When did you go to the police? Did you record it? It's like, no, I was getting beat up. I didn't think to put out my phone and be like, let me just take a .5 video of this, of me on the full floor all night, knocked out. But essentially, that's pretty much what you have to do in order to be able to prevail, at least in family law court. You have to have evidence because otherwise it is a he said, she said.
Right. So going back to restraining orders, there's a few types and we'll break those down very quickly. There's what's called an ex parte. So that one is in case of,
It's an emergency order.
right, that could be
protecting
done
children.
the same day
Yes.
without technically notifying the other party. There's what's a temporary restraining order. You go file, you get a temporary restraining order granted until your hearing. But again, it doesn't mean that it'll be granted. I'll take that back. It could be granted, denied, or partially granted, partially denied, depending on everything that you listed. And then at the hearing, they'll see everything, again, your evidence and what you have, and both parties can present, and the judge will make the decision to make it a permanent restraining order. And these permanent restraining orders can be months, years,
Yeah.
after reviewing everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's another type of restraining order that you didn't mention there, and it's a restraining order when it's not between people that were involved in a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Many people don't know that there's civil harassment restraining orders. You can get a restraining order against your neighbor, your coworker, a family member, even grandmother's ex-boyfriend, because you weren't in a relationship with that person, And some of these things that occur when with neighbors, I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean? I had this person come in and tell me that he was occasionally he would get home really late because he worked nights, and he would pull into the neighbor's driveway and pull out to park in front of his house, or turn around to park in front of his house. And the neighbor would get so mad and leave him death threats like, you better stop pulling into my driveway. I will slit your, throat. I'll do like insane stuff. And when he went to the police were like, well, I mean, do we really think that they would do that? I mean, it sounds like a really extreme threat. And you're like, wait, what? Like, nobody's ever said this to
Wait
me.
till you not, can you not read? It's right here.
It's right here. Well, do you know that if he has a knife and he could really do it? The guy's like, what? I don't understand. Then I had another neighbor where the lady, she knew that they were all nurses that lived in this house, and she would play the music all day long, all day long. And when they would call the cops, she would turn down the music and be like, oh, I'm just cleaning. And the cops would be like, oh, she's just cleaning. And it's like, no, she does this all the time. She has like a horn, like a microphone that she uses to call her cats. In the middle of the day, yes, but knowing her neighbors were nurses that slept during the day. So that we were able to get a restraining order against this lady in that case. But those are just examples of other restraining orders that you can get against someone that's not your partner, because a lot of people just try to say like, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't really know them and I don't know what they're capable of. Yeah, they're stalking me, and they just call the cops, and the cops pretty much say, well, I mean, are these threats really accurate? Is he really going to slash you or whatever? And it's like, yes, he probably will.
We also had that case recently. I think it was the mother-in-law that,
Oh, yes.
she would be around the corner because they were kind of neighbors, but not.
Yes, there was a mother-in-law that was kind of harassing her and stalking her. Another case that recently came up was also a mother-in-law where she was posing as someone else on Facebook and would stalk and harass the daughter-in-law and accuse her of being with other relationships, but they were able to find out that it was the mother-in-law.
The Monster-in-Law.
The Monster-in-Law, that actually was a really good oh, speaking of J-Lo, that was actually a really good movie. But yeah, I mean, you have these crazy scenarios, and I think mother-in-laws, oh my god, they come into family law drama so much. Whether they're calling like, I just wanna know status of the case. Ma'am, you're not a client. Oh, it's my son. Oh, it's my daughter. Okay, cool. Well, go and ask your son or your daughter's
Or we'll have the consult, like, "Hi, I'm calling from a consultation." "Oh, okay." And then all of a sudden, someone's talking on, like, three-way. We're, like, a three-way with their mom. We're like, "Hello? Someone else is on this call?"
Or the best is like, "Well, I'm calling to find out what the status of my son's case is." "Oh, ma'am, they got back together 3 months ago." Well, we can't say that. So, at Google, we have no idea. We're not allowed to give any information. It's like, "Dude, he didn't tell his mom they got back together."
Who's gonna tell her?
Who's gonna tell her? Not I.
Not our problem.
Not our problem.
Again, there's doesn't matter how rich or famous you are, right?
You can still be a victim of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And you still need to do whatever you have to do to protect yourself. And if you find yourself in situations such as freak offs, then make sure you properly document these freak offs. Make sure that you tell somebody so that they can tell you that these freak offs are not normal and that all the money in the world, it should not override the fact that you're having to engage in this. And I think that that was one of the comments that was made, like, "Oh, well, didn't he buy you this amount of bags or this bag?" And the witness on the stand, she was being kind of sassy, and she's like, "Well, don't you have that bag too?" And then the lawyer was like, "No, actually, I don't." And the woman was like, "Okay, well, don't you have this as well? And didn't he buy you this?" And she's like, "Yeah, but how am I going to put a dollar sign on the value of my body?"
Right.
And it's true. I mean, how can you? At the end of the day, you could be getting all this money, but what is the dollar sign for the value of your body? I mean, I don't know. I would think that it's millions and millions and millions.
Mhm. I thought it was interesting. I looked up, what are some celebrities that have been accused of domestic violence or charged, and some of these we know. We discussed Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, Charlie Sheen. Isn't he from, Two and a Half Men? That's him, right?
Yeah,
It's
yes.
him.
Oh
But it looks like he was arrested in 2009 for domestic, violence charges involving his then wife.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Mel Gibson,
Oh.
some musicians we already know, Chris Brown.
And Chris Brown actually wasn't just arrested for domestic violence. Chris Brown has had some battery incidents.
Oh, these are felony
Yes,
assault
some real felony assault charges against even his manager. So, I mean, there you have a history of violence, and then you throw in DV. Oh yeah, that's a sure win, I think.
Yeah. Ozzy Osbourne,
Oh, okay.
yeah, attempted to strangle his wife, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, Osbourne,
Oh, wow.
while he was under the influence, but no charges were filed.
Because it allegedly
But
happened.
he allegedly admitted to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Some athletes, Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, I mean, hello. He does that for a living. He was just
And
practicing.
we were just wrestling. They were just wrestling. Oscar de la Hoya.
Again, just practicing. Just
Allegedly.
wrestling in lingerie.
I did not know, and I could be wrong, but isn't he like in the Kardashian world?
I am not sure.
Because Travis Barker's ex-wife, because he's now with
Oh.
Courtney,
Mhm.
but his ex-wife, I think they dated.
Oh, there's always some
But
link
it's
between, yeah,
yeah,
everyone.
interesting. But yeah, I thought those were interesting. Nicolas Cage apparently,
Oh,
allegedly.
allegedly. Oh, I can see that. I mean, really, like Face Off? What, like
National Treasure, really?
what? We don't have John Travolta on there? No, he's a good guy.
I just put give me some. So
Oh, well, I'm glad you didn't mention any of our actual clients because that would have been hilarious. It accidentally slipped. I'm like, oh, these are celebrities. Allegedly. So, I mean, even though we're making light of this situation, it's still very like, I don't know, underrated topic that people
Mhm.
do not talk enough about. And it takes stories like this and stories like the Johnny Depp situation to really make people understand that domestic violence happens, and it's not just about let me punch you or let me hit you or let me kick you. Domestic violence happens throughout the course of relationships, years of domestic violence, financially, mentally, emotionally, physically, all of it is domestic violence by, right now we have the situation of people being afraid of being deported. And I feel in family law that's going to come up a lot because you have that threat of, well, if you're going to leave me or you're going to do this, I'm just going to go and deport you.
Mm.
So there's so much that's considered domestic violence because that statement alone to me, that's domestic violence. But to a person, I mean, it's just, well, they just say that because they don't want me to leave. Well, no, they should not. Like, they're literally, they don't want you to exist in this country.
Or that takes me back to even COVID times, how
Yes.
everyone was now working remotely or not working, right? Could be, and so they were home.
Time.
And so we had all of these domestic violence cases rise up
Because
because
they were home and people that were not used to being around each other 24/7 all of a sudden were, or people that were thinking about getting divorced, that sealed it for them.
oh yeah,
Oh, it sealed it for them.
yeah. So
Definitely.
so I do want to say that if you find yourself in a situation where you feel unsafe, make sure to call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's 800-799-SAFE, or you can text START to 88788.
And remember to just always protect yourself at any cost. Make sure you talk to somebody, tell somebody, make an appointment with a therapist, talk to your closest friend, anything that you can do to really just start getting your voice out there
Mhm.
about what's happening. And I think that that's step one is just hearing it out loud because a lot of people don't say it out loud.
And even if you want to consult with an attorney, it doesn't mean that because you're talking to an attorney, you have to already drop so much money. Some consultations are free. A lot of people don't know that. So you could just make a consultation, let them know what you have going on, and see if you have a case. There's also, I used to work at a domestic violence shelter, and something that was very common with all these women was that they had no idea that there were shelters that were there to house them, people in their situations. And most of them are free, but they do have their programs, or you have to meet requirements, right? Attend therapy, um, go back to school, or they help you get back on your feet. But there are these
Great.
resources that if you feel like you can't leave because of the financial struggle, your kids, and you're scared of the unknown, there are resources that can help you
Yes, and it's
get out of.
important for you to love yourself enough, love your kids enough,
Yeah,
just want to be able to help yourself get out of that situation because nobody can help you if you don't want to be helped.
exactly. There's help out there.
There is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in to another fun session of Drama in Session. I think that this one touched on so much, so I hope that you guys were highly entertained.
Yes, we'll see you for the next one.
Bye.